This is a video on how to access the free voluntary mediation and IEP facilitation processes from the Wisconsin Special Education Mediation System. I am Jane Burns, and I am the System Administrator and Intake Coordinator, and I'm here with
Nina Meyerding, and I am the mediation partner for the system.
Today we're going to talk about the differences in mediation and IEP facilitation. We have 8 points that we're going to go through, and then we have a list of similarities between the two processes. First, we're going to start out talking about goals in mediation and IEP facilitation. The first goal in IEP facilitation is conflict prevention and assisting with communication in developing or revising the IEP.
And in mediation, the goal is to resolve an impasse, and that impasse may be in several different areas. It could be in the area of IEP issues, it could be in placement, it could be in eligibility, it could be in providing a free and appropriate public education for the child. But an impasse is occurring or has already occurred.
Number 2 in goals is to assist with communication, not resolving underlying issues and emotions that can be present. IEP facilitation is really a conflict prevention process, so we really want to get in there early, and the goal is to help with communication and how the parties are going to work together in the future.
And the mediation process is seen as a conflict resolution process, which is basically saying that an impasse has happened and that there are underlying needs and emotions that have perhaps caused that or at least been increased because of the issue. So people come in and sometimes they're very upset with each other, have difficulty communicating with each other, and instead of just saying, well, we can't focus on that right now, the mediation process really does deal with those, because we find that oftentimes that's the heart of the matter, and that's where the conflict has grown bigger.
Now we're going to talk about timing in mediation and IEP facilitation. In facilitation, parties ask for help when they feel the discussion might be difficult or complex, before they've really reached a roadblock or impasse and identified that. So really what we want to focus on in IEP facilitation is we've met maybe once or twice before and the conversation's been difficult and we could really use some help.
And in mediation, the conversations have not been able to produce any foreseeable outcome. Either parties anticipate that without pretty significant intervention in a mediation process, the negotiations and the mediation results could fall apart. And so what they want is they want someone to come in and really work on those impasse issues.
So the fourth area that we're going to talk about for timing is that the facilitation has a time limit. The facilitator has a total of 3 hours to spend with the parties. If you feel that you're going to need more time than that to deal with conflict, then you should really be using mediation.
And in mediation, we keep statistics about how long the average mediation takes. And it usually takes a session or a session and a half, with a total of about 4 hours. But that doesn't mean that's the limitation for it. So for example, if it's extremely complex, if there's a lot of issues, a lot of difficulties in communication, the mediation process can be significantly longer. Usually what happens is the parties are working with the mediator, and through that process, the mediator helps them decide, is this process continuing to be productive for you? Do you need more time? And so there's flexibility there in the amount of total time that's taken.
Now we're going to move to method in the differences between IEP facilitation and mediation. So number 5 is the IEP process determines the meeting. There's a lot of things that happen in an IEP meeting, and the district has certain responsibilities. So that helps dictate what the agenda is going to be, though the facilitator can work with the parties to really organize that agenda and make sure that all items that the parties want to discuss are covered.
And in mediation, oftentimes the mediators and the mediator and the parties work together to create that agenda. The mediator might say, tell me what your priorities are, tell me what your interests are, what would be your goals for this session. Sometimes that agenda is created prior to mediation in what's called pre-mediation discussions. Sometimes that's created at the mediation, what we call the mediation table, where they work together to create the agenda and then proceed from there.
Number 6 in method is the entire group, the entire IEP team in this instance, stays together during the meeting. We try to keep the parties together, to work together and kind of collaborate and model that together meeting for the future and how it might work.
And in mediation, it can be a combination of things. For example, sometimes the mediation may be everybody together all the time. Other times it might be that because of particular dynamics, there's more separate sessions, or what we call caucuses, where the mediator will go back and forth between the district and the parents. Other times there's a combination of both together time and separate time. Part of the reason is that because mediation is longer, sometimes one person may need a break, may need to step outside for a few minutes. Other times it may be that particularly sensitive issues, especially if it's dealing with underlying emotions or needs, may be better discussed one-on-one with the mediator. So a lot of flexibility in the mediation process about staying together or working separately.
So now when we talk about method, we're going to talk about differences in confidentiality. In Wisconsin, there is no confidentiality law for the IEP process that would keep the conversation private.
And in mediation, there is a specific confidentiality statute referenced here, 904085. We have the statute on our website for you to look at, but in brief, what it says is that whatever you talk about, ideas that you come up with, proposals that you give to each other, would not be admissible in a subsequent proceeding. And so what you can talk about is free as far as privacy, as far as just exploring a lot of different ideas, and that it is protected underneath that confidentiality law.
Another difference in method is the outcome. The outcome for the facilitated IEP is either the IEP is developed or revised, or it's not within the facilitation process. Another option is that the parties will just continue on with the IEP process without a facilitator present.
And in mediation, there's a variety of outcomes. If all is successful, there's a written agreement that is drafted, and it can be worked on with the parties, if they have attorneys, the district, and a written agreement is fashioned that becomes enforceable and legally binding. If there is no agreement at that particular session, the parties can agree to reconvene, and they can say, well, we didn't resolve it this time, but let's have another session and see if we can do it. Or the parties can decide that their issues are not resolvable in mediation, and they can proceed with due process or other avenues that are available to them.
Now we would like to share with you the process similarities between IEP facilitation and mediation. So the first one is keeping the focus on the student. That is our primary goal, is to help keep the focus on the student and keep the process moving forward. We want to manage the group dynamics in the room. We want to look at how people are interacting with each other and how can we help the parties be most effective and keep that focus on the student. We try to help validate common interests. So usually the parties' interests are the same, and it's their positions that are different. So we want to identify those common interests, and we want to keep those interests at the forefront and not slip back into positions and get stuck in those. We want to keep the momentum flowing and the process moving forward. It's very important for us to be forward thinking. It is important to talk about the past, but we really want to say, how are we going to move forward and how are we going to work together? We want to model good communication skills, so we want to make sure everyone is actively listening, and we want to make sure that everyone at the table has a voice, including students, whether they're adult students or teenagers. We want to make sure that they have a voice at the table as well. And we want to make sure that we're modeling that communication and collaboration for parties to use those skills when they meet together in the future. So those are the differences and similarities in mediation and IEP facilitation, and thank you for watching.
We hope that this has been very helpful for you. We have several other videos available on our website. One is with Jane, and it talks about accessing the system. The other one is preparing for mediation, preparing for IEP facilitation, and what you can do to be the most productive and most involved person and to be able to work together. Those are both on our website, and we hope those will be helpful. If you would like to contact either one of us for more information or questions, please feel free to do so. Thank you for watching this video.